we actually have everyone who's on the team at practice on Saturday morning. I think it's the first time in the entire year. That is sad, man. That is sad. And it is sad because an expectation of the program is that you will be at practice. Now, I'm being told, you can figure out who told me this, but I'm being told that I am being played as a fool because guys on the team give me reasons to miss practice and they're lies. And because they text me in advance or they call me in advance and I say okay, and yet you can read their Instagram account or their Snapchat account and you can see that they are not incapable of being at practice. But I'm being treated as a fool. Well, here's the thing. While I personally find that objectionable, nobody likes to be treated as a fool. The truth of the matter is, it's on you, man. It's not on me. If you learn to be a liar, you will get caught someday, and it will cost you. It will cost you big, big time. And you know, habits are like anything else. Eventually, here's Coach Assey told me something this morning. I'm gonna see if I can say it right. Coach Duke Heller told me this. He said, I make decisions, and then eventually decisions make me. The decisions that I make are the decisions that will make me, because I will choose some things. So specifically, Coach said this morning in our 222 meeting, he said, they asked a CEO, they said, how is it that you are so successful? He said, because of good decisions. And they said, how did you learn to make good decisions? And the guy said, experience. And they said, well, how did you get the experience? And he said, by making bad decisions. You see, I have a friend of mine, dear friend of mine, who lost his job, well-paying job. You know why? Because he lied. He lied, and he got caught in a lie, and he lost his job. And he was making 6 figures, and he lost his job. You see, the problem with lying is a habit. And when you form a habit, it will stay a habit until you do something to break that habit. It's just like practice out here. Some of you don't put the effort into practice. And you may have never heard this before. In your life, people have said to you, practice makes perfect. That's a lie. It's not true. Practice does not make perfect. Practice makes habits. Practice makes habits. Perfect practice makes perfect. You with me here? Understand what I'm saying? See, so when I loaf in practice, when I don't give it my best effort, I am creating a habit. When I don't focus, I am creating a habit. And I will do that in the game. I will do that because that is the habit that I've created. If I want to do something well, I will do it accordingly. I need to change the way we approach, because it never dawned on me. There is a distinction between an acceptable excuse for missing practice and one that is unacceptable. It's just the way it is. Now, this is really close to home, but I hope it doesn't offend anybody, but I want to tell you some things. Here's how strongly I believe in commitment. I believe in commitment. You guys know at least a couple of guys, but one of the guys came to me, or they didn't come to me. They went to the other coaches and they said, I got an issue. I've got a problem with practice. I've got to miss it because I'm going to go to homecoming. And another guy said to me, I've got a problem. I can't make a game because I'm going to go to homecoming. And I've paid the money to go to homecoming, and I'm on the hook. In fact, we had a kid quit last year, by the way, who said, because he wanted to use our language, he said, I made a commitment to my girlfriend for homecoming, and so I'm quitting.
That was fire. You can't even.
Serious business now, okay? Now, of course, the intriguing thing about that whole deal is he's no longer with that girl, which is a good thing, actually. But that was what he said. So here's the same thing that my coach once said to me about drinking, not to me, but to the team. He said this, he said, you know, if you want to be a drunk, but just not on this team. So understand this. If you miss a game for prom or homecoming or whatever it might be, that's fine. That's your choice. You're gone. Now, I never believed that I would ever have to stand up here and explain to guys that if you miss for prom or whatever it's called, homecoming or whatever it is, that you're gone.
I ain't gonna beat you. I'm gonna be gone. Two places, so I'm just gonna
Caleb, I'm not, with all due respect, let me talk. So here's my point. The other side of that is this. As unreasonable as you may think that I am about that, if I would try to develop some options with you that were acceptable to me if you came to me like a man in advance, as I have with some fellows, and I have worked this out because they came to me and we sat down and we talked about the thing. You know, here's what I'm trying to say to you. If you're committed to the team, you're committed to the team. If you're not committed to the team and you want to be involved with the team, then I don't want you on the team. And I don't think your teammates do either. Okay? Now, I'm not really busting your chops as much as you think I am. I'm trying to tell you some things because we got started this year 5 days before practice or whatever, and some of you weren't even here for 3 weeks or so. I don't know. When did you come? Third week? Fourth week? Third, fourth week? And so we never really went through some of these things, and I accept that. My point is this, that playing football is hard. It is hard, and that's why people don't do it. They don't do it because they're not willing to put this kind of effort and sacrifice in. And what you will find someday is those same people will never be good at their jobs because they're not willing to put the time and the effort in to get good at what they need to do. You will be, by the way. You will be, as a group, because you will have learned what it means to sacrifice and to do what is necessary to be successful. Do you understand that? That's a tremendous benefit of this. So let me tell you a story, which I am prone to do anyway. I want to tell you about a guy named Jonathan Barnes. How many of you have ever heard of Jonathan Barnes? Nobody but the coaching staff. Jonathan Barnes went to Tree of Life High School. And he had never played football before. And he was 6'5", 260 pounds. He was the captain of his basketball team. And he was a very, very, very fine athlete. Very smart kid. And he came to us in his senior season, before the season, and he decided that he wanted to play football for us. During a summer basketball practice, not a football practice, he broke his foot. So the season began, and John couldn't play because his foot wasn't healed. During that year, now this is commitment, man. During that year, Jonathan never missed a single practice. Now listen to the rest of the story. Unbelievably, we prayed hard, but unbelievably, his foot never healed. He was never cleared to play. I can still see him. In those days, we had a lift-up garage thing. I can still see him as sitting on a bike, like that Schwinn bike in there, and riding to get in shape so that when his foot healed, he could play. The entire season, the kid had never played football before, and he never got a chance to play because his foot never healed. But despite that, Jonathan never quit. He never quit. By the way, he didn't miss practice. And listen to this. He lived in Groveport. So he would come up to Tree of Life, and then he would come up to the barracks, the old barracks, to play, and then he would go all the way back. And people said to him, just quit. Work on your grades. You're going to go to college. You're going to play basketball in college. So just quit. And you don't have to drive that extra bit to go up and back and all that sort of thing. He never quit. So, you see, his contribution to the Crusaders wasn't as the great football player that he hoped to be. It was to serve as a godly model of commitment that will have a far more lasting effect on our program, because there are guys who played on that team that to this day will tell you they can't remember guys on the team, but they remember Jonathan Barnes, because it was one of the most stirring examples of commitment that I have ever seen in my entire life. Have you ever heard of one like that? Do you know of anyone who's had that kind of commitment to something? You see, that's the kind of young man that some woman should want to marry, because he understands what being committed is. He understands fulfilling the commitment that he makes at the altar for his wedding vows. In Luke 9:51 and 52, we read about Jesus, and I'm going to close with this. Now it came to pass, when the time had come for him to be received up, that is, to go to heaven, that he steadfastly set his face. I love that term. Set his face. Can you see that? Set his face. I mean, it was a determined face. He set his face to go to Jerusalem, because that's where he knew that he would be crucified. And he sent messengers on in front of him. You see, Jesus set his face. He was committed with a rare determination to accomplish the goal that he needed to accomplish. And by the way, his comfort, or lack of comfort on the cross, was our salvation, wasn't it? What he did that he didn't have to do, because the guy was God, for pity's sake. He didn't have to do that. So, I leave you with this. Some of you will have slept through this presentation, or you will have not thought about it very much. And some of you will actually learn something from it. And my question to you, before I leave you today, is this. What will you be? The pig or the chicken? If you will be a pig, we will be a much, much better team. So where does an egg come from? Chicken. Right. Where does bacon come from? Pig. Or ham? From a pig. So how does the chicken give you an egg?
Lays it.
Lays the egg, and the chicken is fine. How does the pig give you the ham? It dies. They kill it. That's where the bacon comes from, because a pig and a ham and eggs breakfast is totally committed, while a chicken is simply involved. Now that's a really good illustration, believe it or not, because that is exactly what commitment is. The chicken is involved and the pig is committed. Yeah? Right? Okay, now, in Coach Schaefer, some of you know Coach Schaefer. When he was in high school, he wrote a paper in 12th grade English, and he entitled it, Coach Stanley, the Pig of the Crusader Ministry.
Wow.
I was probably as proud of that as anything that I ever remember. Coach Stanley, the Pig of the Crusader Ministry. What David was saying was Coach Stanley is all in. He is committed. He is totally committed. He was right. So let's talk about some things about commitment. Number one, why we have to say, for example, when you lift and or when you're in the seats, that you need to put your phones away. We've been at this now for 10 weeks. And you have been told repeatedly in that 10 weeks that the expectation of the Columbus Crusaders is that you will put your phone away and that you will listen. Some of you are so obsessed with your phones that you can't live without them for 20 minutes. Someday you will learn that you'd rather not have them. But, so that's one thing. So when we ask you to commit to the Columbus Crusaders, we are saying there is an expectation. One of the simple things that we've said over the years is this. We've said, Crusaders do not walk on grass. Crusaders do not walk on grass. And yet, we have guys who slink around and slump around in practice all the time, games, because, watch, because here's the truth. Because they know more than the coaches know. Because their position is more important than the position of the team. Now we have that rule for a very simple reason. We have that rule because we know that our team plays better when as a unit we come together and we hustle. We know that in life, some of you, no, all of you will do far better at your jobs if you do what you're told to do. And we give you an opportunity to discipline yourselves with something as simple as that. I'm going to give you some very real examples, some things that I never thought in all the years that I've coached that they would ever be an issue. I'll try not to take a terribly long time, but I do want to make sure that we get through this. First of all, here's one of the problems. The problem is that from your perspective, many of you don't want to be committed to the ministry, to the Crusaders. You want to be involved. Now, what does involvement look like? Here's what don't roll your eyes and say, I've heard this before, because this, you may have. Here's what involvement looks like. What involvement looks like is I'll get to practice if it's convenient for me. I will be on time if it's convenient for me. If it's convenient for me, I am involved. I will be there unless I have something that I think is more important to do. Because I'm only involved. I'm not committed. Commitment is a matter of conviction, not convenience. It is a matter of making a decision. And this is what you need to understand. When I make a commitment to something, I am choosing to be all in that particular commitment. All in. Now, many of us are involved as opposed to committed. We always talk about Joshua 24:15, in which Joshua says to the Israelites, he says, choose for yourselves today whom you will serve, but as for me and my family, we will serve the Lord. We will serve the Lord. So Joshua was making a choice. I'm not asking you, when I was in high school, my high school coach, believe it or not, said this to the entire team. He said, look, if you want to play football, you need to be committed to football. If you want to be a lush, if you want to be a drunk, then go out and drink. Be the best drunk you can be. But you're not going to play football. Some of you have habits that you know are not good. Some of you don't realize, or if you do realize it, you're choosing to ignore it. Your body is the vehicle that you have to be a competitive athlete, right? It's what enables you to do what you do. Your body does. Some of you whether it's smoking, drinking, marijuana, whatever it is, here's what it's like. It's like taking a brand new Corvette and taking it out and going to the gas station and saying, all right, I'm going to put 10 gallons of gas in it, and I'm going to put 2 gallons of sand in it, in the gas tank. Now, how well do you think that car would run? Not very well. If I take 10 gallons of gas and 2 gallons of sand and I put it in the gas tank and it mixes up and then it goes through the engine, it will seize up. Without question, it will absolutely seize up. And that's what some of you are choosing to do. Now, why am I giving this today? Now, I'm not giving this today because of Crusader football season. You're not going to, many of you are not, most of you are not going to make decisions in the next 1 month, 4 weeks. We got 4 weeks. You're not going to change the way you behave. I hope that someday you will change some of the behaviors that you have, especially if you want to try to fool people into believing that you are, in fact, a committed athlete. You need to make choices. Now, we talk about this, but we haven't talked about it with this group very much. And it is this: commit